Holy cow. What, just a cow? Yes. Tommy John. He ended up dying 83, and yes, just a cow. There is that is associated with his name. But we will get into that later in the video because we got a lot to unpack before I get to that. And he had one of the longest careers in baseball history. It's up there with Nolan Ryan. The guy pitched from 1963 to 1989, and he was on a lot of different teams. I mean, a lot. He was on the Indians, White Sox, Dodgers, Yankees, Angels, A's, and then he ended up finishing his career back with the Yankees. And 288 wins. And that's amazing. And you would think that somebody that was almost in that 300 win club would be in the Hall of Fame. This is where I've always had slight issues with Hall of Fame because he doesn't have any World Series rings. That's the thing that's been around in NBA. It's in Major League Baseball. It's in NFL. It's almost in every sport. They look at how many rings you have. It shouldn't be that way. The guy had almost 300 wins, and it's not enough to get in the Hall of Fame because he wasn't like a Randy Johnson, wasn't like a Nolan Ryan, blazing speed with fastballs and getting 5,000, 6,000, 7 strikeouts, whatever it may be. So he wasn't on the level of that. His strikeout totals is not that high. And his strikeout total is only like 2,425 for an entire career. So, and that made him get the snub of the Hall of Fame time and time again. When you're thinking of Tommy John, are you putting him in with the categories of like a Nolan Ryan's, the Randy Johnsons, the Roger Clemens, and etc.? No, but you should. The guy had an incredibly long career. But there's one thing Tommy John is associated with: the surgery. You see, people forget. People forget that at one time, that when you had that injury, your career was done. It was done. Now, a lot of people don't know, and a lot of people do know, but a lot of people don't know, what was Tommy John's surgery. Now, if they pitched with the right hand, left hand, it didn't matter. It affected all pitchers. And basically what that is where there's so much throwing motion with the right hand. It's almost like carpal tunnel on computers. You're doing the same motion continuously, time and time again. So it takes a lot of toll on your wrist. Same way with this surgery. It's the elbow right here, and you're making that same motion, continuously, time and time and time again, and the ligaments in your elbow here just completely tears the arm off. Before Tommy John, and that's the reason it's named after him, that nobody came back from it once you had the surgery because you were out for about a year. You would be out for about a year, and they would do the surgery, and chances of you coming back was relatively zero. It wasn't going to happen. Tommy John, it happened to him, of course, because it's named after him. Why else would it be named after him? In 1974, pretty early in his career, really early in his career, that happened to him. He had the surgery, and they did the surgery. He was out for a whole year. He was out for a year while recouping and trying to make a comeback because before John, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Now it's prevalent. Now you can have the surgery and you will make a comeback. Successfully or unsuccessfully, it all depends. Depends how old you are when you've had the surgery. And Tommy John made a comeback. He made a huge comeback. Yeah, his first year wasn't so well. He was an up and down pitcher throughout his career, no matter what. But he did make that comeback, and he continued to pitch pretty successfully. He actually, this is mind-blowing, of his 164 64 of his 288 career wins. Think about this. That's over, what do you say, about 60% of his wins? Yeah, roughly thereabout. About 60% of his wins came after the Tommy John surgery, which is just amazing. Think about that. 288 wins, but 164 of those came after the Tommy John surgery, which was named after him. So like the Lou Gehrig's disease, named after Lou Gehrig. And so that's pretty much going to be the legacy of Tommy John moving forward, even after he died, because they will continue to do this surgery as long as baseball's around, as long as Major League Baseball and all that's still around. They will continue to do this surgery. Some have come back and were better than they were before. Some were worse. It just depends on the situation and how old the pitcher was. It's usually pitchers that get this. Not any other position in baseball tend to get it. It's just pitchers. And that is the legacy of Tommy John. I think the Hall of Fame snub is a big one. I think he should have been in the Hall of Fame many years ago, but because he wasn't a strikeout artist, he gets the snub, and he'll probably continue to get the snub moving forward. His legacy is that, and being one of the best pitchers that has ever had the Tommy John surgery. That at one time that was a death sentence. It's not a death sentence now because they have successfully performed the surgery on a lot of different pitchers, and they have been successful after having the surgery. That is the legacy of Tommy John. I really think it is. I think it's more so than his Hall of Fame snub. But that the surgery is what's going to be known for Tommy John. No question about it. No question about it. And how successful and how much of a long career he had. I think with 1974, he had that surgery. He pitched through the rest of the 70s. He pitched way in almost into 1990, 1989. He pitched for over a decade after having the surgery. And that's what his legacy is going to be. His legacy is going to be how you can come back from a serious injury like that. Because at one time, that wasn't happening. That was not happening. And Tommy became one of the first ever to come back from that surgery and have, I want to say, a Hall of Fame worthy career, but for some reason, he is not in the Hall of Fame. And that makes me question the Hall of Fame. I don't know how trustworthy they are on picking people, because they should have somebody prestigious. That makes me wonder, how prestigious is the Hall of Fame when you have somebody associated with Tommy John surgery, nearly 300 wins, having 164 of those wins after the surgery, not in the Hall of Fame. You would have think they would have elected him in the Hall of Fame when he was alive, because he could have did the message out there to other pitchers saying, hey, you can come back from a career-threatening injury like Tommy John surgery. And that could have been a message to other pitchers like, you know what? Right, I mean, I can come back from that. But it's not the message the Hall wanted to send. That's not the message the Hall wanted to send. For some reason, they wanted to give him the snub. And they did time and time again. He was on the ballot, and he never got in. And I think that is an utter shame that somebody associated with the name of Tommy John and the surgery and he's not in the Hall of Fame. I think that is one of the biggest snubs of Hall of Fames. I think it's up there with Pete Rose. I really do. I mean, this guy should have been in the Hall of Fame many, many years ago. There is no question about it. And it makes me question the integrity of the Hall of Fame. It really does. It's more about rings with them than it is anything else. It really is. It's not about stats anymore. You look at each Hall of Fame class, they always look, well, who has the rings? Who has at least one ring? Tommy John didn't have any rings. And they don't care about the stats anymore. It used to be that, you know what, I could go on with this forever, and I don't want to make this too long of a video, but rest in peace to one of the greatest pitchers not in the Hall of Fame. Just wow.
Me and Mom are saying that's all for now.
That's all for now.